All
right, y'all are live.
Oh.
Are we live?
Okay, you guys, we have a confession for everyone who's tuning in. We're going to let y'all come on in the room. We have a confession. We were going to make a theme song for you guys this week, and that didn't happen. So we got y'all next week. We're going to have a whole theme song. D's dancing to something that's not the theme song, so don't pay attention to D. Like, what are you hearing, D?
Some reggaeton.
Wepa!
Well, welcome to the Cyber Soirée.
Welcome Cyber Soirée. It's time to party.
No, don't give them too much. You know, they ain't got the theme song yet. We ain't trying to let them know what we got cooking up.
Soirée rhymes with partay.
Soirée. Party.
It does kind of rhyme. Soirée, partay. Okay, so you guys, we're switching things up a little bit this month. For the month of June, we are going to be focusing in heavy on praise and protest.
Praise
and protest.
My God.
My God and protest. My God on a Tuesday.
Why Tuesday?
That's the God's day.
That did you say that's the God's day?
Yes.
But we're going to be focusing in on praise and protest. It feels appropriate. There's a lot happening right now. There's protests all over the world, standing up for justice, and it feels a little. I don't know. At least in our lifetime, it feels a little different. I feel like now when I talk about race in Tennessee, and when I say Black Lives Matter, I don't get the side eye as much. So it feels a little different right now. But that's what we're all about anyway. We're about praise and protest, and we are going to be doing something a little different. So we're going to be singing. The host here, we're going to be singing songs like we do every week. But we're going to be bringing in speakers who can really speak to the times that we're in right now and that we're facing. And we are so honored. Today we have Reverend Otis Moss from Chicago, and we've got our friend John Paul Howard from down in it's not LA. Every time I say that somebody from the OC is from LA, they get mad at me. So I want to be careful. He's from California.
Cali!
I'm gonna let him say if it's LA or OC.
California, no Santa party. California, no Santa party.
So
He is lit. He's ready.
yeah, he is very lit. I don't know what's going on.
D is lit. LIT.
He is very lit. I guess you gotta have some joy in these times.
You do.
You have to laugh.
You gotta.
You have to.
It's so much sadness. It's so much to fight for. It's so much to resist. We gotta have something to have joy for.
Have joy.
Wait, are we? Is JP? Who's coming in now? I'm sorry. I'm
going to sing. I'm gonna sing first, D. I sent you the order of events. If you want to take a look.
Oh, crazy! There's an order of events. That's crazy.
Read it.
Oh shoot! Here it is, right here. It says "Song Brittany." All right, my bad, guys. My bad.
It does. It says "Song Brittany."
Brittany, please sing for us.
Yo, just bless us.
No, we gotta have some joy. It's been a very hard week. JC and Gabby been protesting every day in Minneapolis.
I should have protested today. I did a prayer march today. It was beautiful.
Bro, that was
Videos.
saw some videos. That was awesome. That was awesome.
So that might what has me so energized. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, wait, Brittany. So Brittany, guys, is from Baltimore, and she's been part of Hymnal for the last 6 months. And so you know what I mean, like, so she has really good songs and she's dope. So take it away, Brittany.
Wow, what a false narration, but I liked it.
Very false narrative.
Not just for me, Jesus, you're not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me, not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. You're the God who crosses lies to meet the ones who've been denied. You're always near, no one's too far from you. And you're the God who knows the song of every tribe and every tongue. And as we all belong to you. Not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. Oh, Jesus, you're not just for me, not just for me. No, Jesus, you're not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. Oh, you're the God who crosses lines to meet the ones who've been denied. You're always near, no one's too far from you. And you're the God who knows the song of every tribe and every tongue. And as we all belong to you. Not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me. Oh, 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 Jesus, you're not just for me. Jesus, you're not just for me.
Yikes.
Wow.
Every time.
All the time.
All the time, every day.
Right.
Oh,
That was the right song.
That was the right song.
That was the
Brittany.
right song.
That was the number right there.
No, for real
That
though.
was really good.
We deliberated. Go ahead, John Carlos.
I was just gonna say, like, those verses are so powerful. You're the God who crosses lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, like, and then what's the last line? You're always near.
No
Yep.
one-
No one's too far from you.
That's so good. People forget that.
Yeah. You know, it's a song. I actually sent it to someone this week. It's kind of crazy. It feels weird. In 2020, I'm still explaining to people what Black Lives Matter means.
Hmm.
And and like the difference between saying that and all lives matter. But I explained it this week, and I was talking about how Christianity struggles to share space, um, a loss of power, loss of all the seats at the at the table. Um, it feels it brings people down. It makes people feel like it's lessening the value or the dignity of Christianity. But
Mercy.
really, sharing space is I mean, it's it is Christian.
Yeah, it's the most,
It's the
including,
most Christian thing.
including the least, is literally the most Christ-like thing you can do.
The most.
Yes, absolutely. I'm over here thinking about. I'm not trying to preach, but this was a moment that
Come
hit
on
me.
and preach, JC.
Preach.
Here's the thing. Here's the people
Hey!
talk about the riots more than Black Lives Matter. I started talking to people. There were like a lot of people from church started coming out saying, "What about all these riots and all this stuff?" And I got like crazy. I said, "Well, Jesus started a riot.
Uh-huh.
Jesus started a riot, and what when you dive into that scripture when he went into the temple and he started flipping tables, that was premeditated. Like he fabricated a whip. First of all, because he saw that the Gentiles were actually being oppressed. Their space was taken up because people were setting up a marketplace.
Mm,
So
mercy.
it was taking up the space designated for the minorities of the time.
My
And
And
God.
Jesus said, "Not in my house." And he started
not my
flipping tables.
house. But
Nah.
what happens? I need the organ. Come on. JC is going there. You got to go with them. Pay attention, musician.
Oh,
Back on the
let's
word. My
go.
bad. Ah! Oh, sorry. Damn it.
Mm, mm.
Hallelujah. Okay. Never mind.
I can't hear a word, anything, so I couldn't say nothing. But anyways, I literally just had that imagery. Like
Yeah.
Jesus needs to flip some tables in Christianity, in
Yeah.
in the church.
Yeah. He wasn't. He was. He certainly. I was watching the Dave Chappelle I think it was the Mark Twain Award. I think that he was receiving, and he had a quote at the end of the show that he was like, it's something his mom used to tell him all the time, and he said the quote was, "Sometimes you have to be the lion in order to be the lamb that you really are." And like Jesus was meek and peaceful and all that, but he also had teeth, Joe. Like, and he had bite, he had fire, and he did not hold back the fervor for which he loved with which he loved people, and at times that fervor had to come out as strong truth,
Yep.
both power and powerless. So yeah, Jesus has some, man. Yeah, Jesus has some. Oh man, Otis is going crazy in the chat. Okay, Reverend.
Let's
Let
bring him out.
Okay, here we go, man. Because he's going nuts in the chat, and I don't want him to waste. I don't want him to waste
Yeah.
none of the sauce he's giving us, man. Uh, there are people. There are people that you hear preach sometimes, and they remind you what preaching is supposed to be, and
Hmm.
what preachers and ministers of the gospel are supposed to do. And I think in the age where a lot of preachers want to remain safe, we went to Reverend Otis Moss's church, which is Trinity United Church in Chicago. And we heard this man preach, and my God, were we
Yes.
so deeply impacted and moved by the word that God
Yes.
that God has given him, not only just good biblical word, but strong truth that we need in this time, about the
Yes.
times that we're living in. So it is the honor and pleasure. I think this is the second time he's joined us. Would you guys please welcome Reverend Otis Moss?
Thank you all.
Friend.
It's great to be back with you all. I was loving the conversation, and Dee, you were putting in the organ. Ryan, you were preaching, and then the music being thrown down by Britt. This was it's just beautiful. It was really beautiful. So I'm just delighted to be with the Cyber Soirée crew. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. Well, it's great. It's great. Now, you all gave me an assignment already. Thank you, Brittany. She already told me what I'm supposed to do. what I'm supposed to say and all of that. So I'm going to be good and do exactly what you told me to do.
You can
Um,
flow, Pastor. You can do what you want to do.
Nobody really listens to Brit that much anyway, so you can do what you.
It's true.
and D, I'm gonna get you on the organ too, man. You're gonna hook me up on the organ.
Now we got to call Kayvon because my organ skills aren't the best. Probably try to call Kayvon in.
Oh, you got to see Cave. He's got a new piece that, well, it's old actually, but it's so relevant. He's done a piece called Black Lives Matter, and he did it during around when the Emanuel 8 were shot. But every line in there is just as if he wrote it last week.
My God.
It's it's powerful. And the line that is beautiful is that land of the free, home of the brave. Why does it feel like I feel like a slave? And oh man, it's beautiful. So we use it at the end of service today. So I'm hoping that you all are going to connect at some point to Kavan and the common hymnal. And you all are beautifully uncommon, I must say. There's nothing common about what you all do. So I'm just appreciative. So what I want to share today for everybody who is watching a little bit about praise and protest and protest music that flows out of the African tradition, and specifically some blues music and its rooting in the spiritual tradition. There is a wonderful artist that Rolling Stone said has one of the best guitar solos in history, at the top 25, I believe. His name is T-Bone Walker, and he had a song called Stormy Monday, and the song went something like this. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. Wednesday's worse, but Thursday's oh so sad. Friday, the eagle flies. Saturday, I go out to play. But you'll find me Sunday in church on my knees to pray. That T-Bone Walker was merging the blues, the existential experience, at the same time with what theologians would call his eschatological hope, what God is going to do in the future. And much of Black music has had this rooting, the double entendre. It comes out of the African pentatonic moment. Pentatonic, just those 5 scales, those black notes on the keys and all of that. And the music always had resistance connected to it because they recognized that you could send code by music. The drum was outlawed, but they found that if I sing in a particular way and use the code and this pentatonic sound that comes out of the Black tradition, we can use music as a form of protest. So people always thought spirituals, it was all about happy music. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, but it was coded because Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, the double entendre, meaning that for Massa, it said, oh, you're talking about heaven. But for the enslaved African, it says that, well, tonight, somebody's about to go home, meaning that we're going to leave, go north, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And when you hear spirituals, they're always remixed. You don't sing one song the same way, and you cannot sing the song alone. They're the rain spirituals that people like to do. But you would remix them all the time. So you'd start off singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, coming forth to carry me home. And that would signal that tonight is the time that we make our way to the Underground Railroad. You keep singing the song, and then you start remixing for the people who are running away. And how you sing it determines which way you need to run to get away from the slave catchers. So if you use a bass sound, you may be saying, hey, go south. If you use a soprano, hey, move north. And then if somebody was on your tail, you just mix it up and said, down by the riverside, singing to the person. You need to make your way down by the riverside, follow that river or follow the drinking gourd or roll, Jordan, roll. And then if you want to get the dog off your tail, you say wade in the water. And so get in that water so that the water will allow you to lose the scent so the dog can't catch you. And so right in that music, you had this protest this resistance wrapped up in it. But unfortunately, so many people think that anytime you talk about spirituals, you're talking about music about some happy enslaved people. The challenge and what's so beautiful about what you all are doing is you all are reclaiming protest and praise together, which has always been a part of music for people who have been marginalized. You would sing one way that your audience thought you were talking in one way, but on another level, you were speaking on a deeper level about a God who crosses boundaries. While people are caught up in the chords, all of a sudden you're bringing some radical theology in the process, and that's the beautiful thing about African American music, that it mixes all of these unique elements together. As a matter of fact, there's one particular song that is an African American or African song, but people don't recognize the Africanity of the song. It's a song called Amazing Grace. Everybody has heard Amazing Grace. People love Amazing Grace. And if you go to the Library of Congress, when you read the original piece that Newton supposedly wrote, it always says words by Newton, melody unknown, because the melody is an African melody. Newton was a peddler in black flesh, and the story goes that Newton was on a ship, and all of a sudden there was a storm, and in the midst of that storm, he prayed to God, and God stopped the storm. But there's another side of that story that's told in the South from mouth to ear by people who were descendants of those individuals who were on those ships in the Middle Passage. Said it has nothing to do with Newton at all. It said that Newton and all the other people who were on top of the ship heard a hum and a sound beneath the ship. The sound was so powerful that during the storm, that the sound made its way up to heaven. And one of the angels bent over from the banister of heaven, heard it, and then tapped God on the shoulder and said, "You've got to hear these children sing." And God just simply said, "Shh," and stopped the storm. And that is where we get the song Amazing Grace. The unique thing is that Amazing Grace cannot be played without the black keys. In other words, you can have grace, but it won't be amazing if you don't put the black keys together, because it mixes African and also European sounds together that create something new. Same thing happens in jazz music, which is a form of protest. It's a music that speaks about democracy before America knew what democracy was. The jazz music born in New Orleans, in what was called the Congo Square, is born listening to the polyrhythms and pentatonic of the African, Spanish, and also indigenous people, German and French all together, forming a new music that is unique to America. And what's so powerful about jazz music and how it teaches democracy is that you have instruments that are not supposed to play together. So the saxophone is designed for the marching band. The piano was considered to be European classical. The bass was to be played with a bow, not your fingers. The drum was not to be a trap drum set that you play rhythmically. And all of these instruments end up playing together. And what's unique about jazz and its democracy is it says that everybody in a jazz band has the right to solo. So that saxophone never tells the piano how it should sound. The piano does not tell the bass how it should sound. And the drums do not tell the saxophone how the saxophone should sound. Each one has the right to bring their unique cultural narrative to the table, to bring something new in the process. And in this moment, where we are witnessing uprisings and protests and marches and people pressing against what I call the yet to be United States of America, we are seeing for the first time collectively this unique gumbo of people bringing their unique narrative, recognizing that we've got to tear down what we know as racism, racial terror, or white supremacy, utilizing a jazz narrative in many ways. And so hopefully there'll be a new generation that will be bringing together all of these pieces from different cultures and creating new music in the process. And that's what jazz music has been trying to teach America all of these years that it is possible for us to gig together. It is possible for us to play together and keep our unique ethnicity without creating a hierarchy that disinherits somebody else. And that's the true power of music and how we need to take music and apply it to our democracy. Everybody should have the right to solo. And if you give everybody a right to solo, we can all play together. In the words of John Coltrane, we can create a love supreme in the process. But you got to let people into the band in the first place. And that's what all these protests are about, not just getting into the band that's been created. We want to create something new. We don't want to tear down the master's house and then rebuild the house with the master's tools, in the words of Audre Lorde, but we want to create something brand new. So I'm hoping that's what I love about the Common Hymnal. You all are a jazz band. You're doing Amazing Grace. You're the Black and the White Keys. You're playing new music that is going to create new things for this democracy that is yet to be birthed, known as America. I'm done. I appreciate y'all. So that's my thing. Did I do what I was supposed to do, Brittany?
Exceedingly, abundantly,
Okay.
above
I don't
all.
want to get in trouble with Brittany. As long as I don't get in trouble with Brittany, please.
That is true.
Am I supposed to sing after that?
Oh yeah, you about to sing, D.
Jesus.
Oh, I thought D was speechless for a second. Okay.
You should have
Bro,
saw
I'm
D.
not about to just sing after that. We gotta talk. We gotta talk about that for a second, bro.
That was fire.
Yeah. Yeah, you all the musician. I'm not a musician. I just love music so much, and I just appreciate what y'all are doing.
I mean, you broke it down for us. Like,
Wow.
Broke it way, way down.
You can't have
It was good.
grace, but it won't be amazing without the Black Keys. My God.
what?
So good.
It just, okay, wait a minute.
My favorite part was jazz teaches democracy.
Yeah, it's all about democracy. Everybody's got a right. It has no hierarchy. Everybody has the. Even if you're bad, you get a chance to try.
Even if you're
You
stoned
know?
out of your mind.
That's right.
I love what you said. It's instruments that were never meant to play together, and that's such the key part is that the powers try to instill upon us who we're supposed to unite with and who we're supposed to reject. And this idea of praise and protest is the bumping up against the system that says you are not supposed to be together.
Right.
That's what I love about Common Hymnal. That's what I love about jazz. I never saw jazz that way.
Me either.
It's absolutely correct. Things that were never supposed to go together are pushing back and saying, no, you don't go with us, but we go with each other.
Wow.
And it's the most American music. Think about it. I mean, jazz is in Congo Square. The Congo Square has roots in connection to Haiti, and also the indigenous community in New Orleans. They were the people that said, hey, if you all want to hide, come on, hang out with us. So you have this Black Native American connection. Then you have this huge, incredible Spanish influence in Louisiana, along with French and German. You have all of these influences, and they say, no one has a hierarchy. Everybody gets the right to put their stuff in here, and whatever comes out, comes out.
Wow.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I literally never thought about jazz in that way. Wow.
Incredible.
I'm going to be unpacking that for a while.
Wow.
That was beautiful.
Woo, man, mercy.
D, you need a sec? You okay?
I mean, like, I'm really, I got, okay, let me say this before I sing, and then, like, yeah, but, like, I got to gospel music late in life. I wasn't necessarily raised on it, and I did not have an appreciation for it until my friends in high school, like, literally sat me down and said, boy, you have to love this music, our music. I didn't understand it. And over the years, I've grown such a love and appreciation for it, and I have a deeper affection for it now. Hearing you, and already knowing that type of the overall history of spirituals, that they were messages to each other. I did not know how intricate how intricate those messages were, and to know that my folks, my people, even in the midst of being like no no upward mobility in the economy, no means by which to educate themselves or enrich themselves, still the mind still had genius minds to outwit and outsmart the people that were oppressing and suppressing them, and that is like wrecking my heart right now. That there was still, even in the midst of the harshest oppression, our people still found a way um, to outwit evil. And if they could find a way to outwit evil, surely we can now. And I'm really messed up. And I kind of don't want to sing, but I have to because I told Brittany I would. But and I don't want Brittany mad at me. And I have to
You
thank
don't
Brittany.
want Brittany mad at you. No.
No, I gotta thank Brittany too, because hey, Brittany, every time I don't want to do something with the Kingdom is Yours, Brittany's the one that says no, you have to. And even when we wrote the song, uh, that there was such a contention in the room from Brittany to make the song right and make the song not just about. I'm glad we did it I'm glad we did it now. I'm glad we did it then for the times that we're in now. That it's not just about the martyred church or the people that want to make martyrs out of themselves. Not and out of sort of the lightest things, in the places where the church has been the aggressor, in the places where the church has been the oppressor, and the agitator. Um, I'm glad that we wrote the lyrics the way we did. Um, what's the Kingdom is Yours? Blessed are the ones who do not bury all the broken pieces of their heart. And blessed are the tears of all the weary, pouring like a sky of falling stars. Blessed are the wounded ones in mourning, brave enough to show the Lord their scars. Blessed are the hurts that are not hidden, open to the healing touch of God. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Blessed are the ones who fight for justice, longing for the coming day of peace. And blessed is the soul that thirsts for righteousness, they still have strength to love their enemies. Blessed is the faith of those who persevere. Though they fall, they never know defeat. Never know defeat. The kingdom is yours. Yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. And we shall overcome. We shall overcome. And we shall overcome someday. For deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
Nobody told me that the road would be easy, and I don't believe He's brought me this far to leave me. Oh, nobody told me that the road it will be easy, and I don't believe He's brought me this far to leave me. Oh, nobody told me that the road it would be easy, and I don't believe He's brought me this far to leave me. Praise God.
Thank you.
I hope that was okay, D. You looking at me.
No, I'm having an experience with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Through,
Thank you so much, D.
thank you, Reverend Moss. Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
my God.
Wow.
That was unbelievable.
Wow. That was beautiful.
I'm legit like speechless.
Yeah.
Me too. I think all of us are. Wow. I'm going to go ahead and introduce John Paul. John Paul is an incredibly dope human being. He's out of California. As I said earlier, I'm not going to say OC or LA because people get offended, and I don't know which one it is. So he can clarify that when he come on. But he's been protesting in Minneapolis all last week and the week prior. But also he's been heading up and leading some protests in his community as well. He leads an organization called The Couch, where they physically take a couch and they drive around the country to HBCUs and just film just interviews and just interaction with Black college students, just talking about their experience as Black people, just talking lifestyle. One of their favorite ones that they've done, or one of my favorite ones that they've done, is one that talks about anger and how it can essentially be healthy and provoke change. And so we're just going to bring out John Paul, and he's gonna give us a little TED talk. If you guys ever noticed, it's like kind of like TED talks that we're doing right now. Yeah, we're excited to have you. Come on out, John Paul.
What's up?
What's up?
I was so anxious this entire time watching all y'all interact.
No, don't be
I was ready to jump in. I'm like, get me on. Let me shot her down at least one time.
If you had came on, it would have probably been fine, honestly. Like
I was tempted. I thought about it. Sure.
We're so happy to have you. I hope I did you justice with your introduction.
I'm gonna make a few corrections.
Okay, I'm all for
No, I'm
it.
kidding. No, you're kidding.
Okay, but first things first, LA or OC, Orange County?
That's where I was gonna start. So I don't have any claim to either one, but I haven't lived in LA. I did live in Orange County.
Okay.
I now live in Long Beach, which is technically LA County. So it's right in the middle of both.
I like Long.
I do. Long Beach is what's up.
Long Beach is fine, but I'll tell you about that later.
So yeah, it's a middle ground between LA and Orange County. But yeah, my heart is always Detroit, where I'm from.
Hey.
So I left there when I was 20. I'm 28 now.
Ooh,
But yeah, family's still there. My heart's still there.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could even describe the couch a little bit more too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the video even that you referenced, we were in LA at the same place I met you, that backyard.
Oh, yeah.
It was the same space. But we had shown one of our films back there to a group of like 60, 70 people. And that was like the conversation that we had post documentary screening. And so that was one of my good friends, David Jackson, who's just brilliant. We're actually releasing another podcast tomorrow, a conversation that we had with him.
Oh, dope.
Just kind of like talking about the last couple of weeks. So tune into that, because honestly, listening to it, like being in the conversation blew my mind the entire time. And I know that, yeah, I'm gonna be watching it tomorrow or listening to it tomorrow as well. So
I'm gonna be listening to it. I can't wait.
I'll send it to you.
Dope. And everyone can find like the link to it on your page.
Yeah, on the couch official.
Okay, the couch official.
Yeah.
Dope.
But yeah, you.
Oh,
What's
go
that?
ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just about to jump in. I think you hit it all on the head with the couch. Essentially, we use it as a tool for meaningful conversation, and so I think for us, it was to take something from our own homes that we associate with honest and familiar dialogue, and taking that into public spaces and just having conversations with people in a setting where normally like we couldn't. And so rather than doing the classic interview setting, what do you think about this? Creating a setting where it was more comfortable, more conducive to go as deep as we wanted to. And so there's times I sit on the couch with someone for 30 minutes. There's times where I've been on for an hour and a half. It's just like, depending on how much people want to give. But so yeah, our focus has been HBCUs the last year or two, just because it was our goal is to amplify underheard voices. And so in the education in higher education, HBCUs exist. They have a deep history in America, of course, but the average American doesn't know anything about them or associates them with like drumline or something, you know? And so I think I just wanted to give them a proper platform and yeah, just put them fully on display. And so I think going forward, I think we'll engage in a number of different conversations, but we're kind of sitting on this one right now. And I think, yeah, I wanted to make a point with, I think one of the reasons why we are so focused on HBCUs, one of the initial biblical stories that kind of inspired what we did was in First Corinthians. Paul is writing to the church of Corinth, and he expresses this desperate desire to be with him. He says, I'm on my way, and like I'm coming to you, but for right now there is an opportunity for great work here in Macedonia. And I remember reading that and realizing that like it's okay to look at a moment or look at something that's happening in culture and history, whatever, and stay there. You know, I think we always want to like go and be somewhere else and do something else. But I feel like I'm just always like looking for opportunities for where I feel like there is one, a story, but also like a great work of God to be on display and to be made known. And so I really believe that like if we are to really understand and investigate the history and the stories of HBCUs and HBCU students, there is it would mean a great deal for America and for our future if we are able to engage with these institutions in a way that they deserve. And I think it's similar. That's even similar to the times we're in right now. Is like with the protests going on, with I don't like to call them riots. I prefer to call them rebellions, just to identify them in a different tone. But there's so much happening right now, and I really do feel like it's another opportunity, you know? And so I don't wake up every morning just excited to talk about racism and police brutality and all these different things, although I wake up every morning and I do talk about it. But I think what's compelling me is not necessarily like, oh, this is what I want to give my life to. This is what I was born for this, you know, whatever. But it's more that I look at the landscape of what's going on and I see, wow, if we can come out of this two ways, you know? We can come out of it in a looking like we did before, which would be very, very dangerous for America if we don't make changes at this like flashpoint moment in history. But I think if we continue this momentum and really push for change and allow these ideas for change to develop and mature, I really do see this moment as a crazy opportunity for our nation and for the Black community and for all of us, honestly, to walk into a greater enlightenment, you know, of what it means to be American, what it means to be in a democracy, as we were just talking about a little bit before with Reverend Otis. And so I think that's why I was out in Minneapolis. That's why I've been protesting in LA and Long Beach and Orange County. I almost flew out to New York yesterday because Tamika Mallory was leading a protest. I am trying to push this as much as I personally can, along with everyone else, because I really do believe that if we do this well and if we channel this momentum, both in the protest, but then also in our strategy, that we will, that we can see maybe not a perfect, but definitely a different America, you know? And so I think of different movements in the past, like the bus boycotts that lasted 381 days. I'm like, man, can we even go longer than that? Can we continue some form of protest, you know, for the next 2 years that is consistently on display. And maybe it doesn't just look like gathering in parking lots or in the streets. Maybe maybe in the next couple of weeks, we develop a more perfect language for this moment, for what the right protest looks like. But yeah, I think that if we really seize this moment, if we really maximize this moment, that we can, make dents in what we're arguing for, what we're believing for this nation to be. And just a little personal story. I just thought this would be fun to tell, because I don't think I've told you this, Brittany, but I think I get really excited, right? I've been, as tired as I've been, as frustrated I've been this last week, I think I've been really excited, to really just seize this opportunity, seize this moment. I think that revolution is just in my family's, it's in my blood. My dad, who is 74 now, so like Vietnam veteran, he was a Black Panther, really good friends at one point with Louis Farrakhan. But this is a long story, and I'm just going to condense it, and we can talk about it more at a future date. But essentially, the Detroit riots were sparked at a club that he started when he was like 18, 19 years old. And so like my dad's been a part of like so many different movements, so many different revolutions, and so many different fights. And so I feel like just getting into this moment in history, it was like a gut reaction to just jump on a plane and go to Minneapolis, And I think a big part of that was just like wanting to be proximate to the story, Because again, we see so much in culture right now, people having opinions and judgments about what's going on from their laptop, and like having ideas of who people are, what type of people come from certain people groups, and all these decisions and ideas are coming from like such a distance, and from a very particular angle. And so I know for me, I just never wanted to be or allow that to be said of me, I think a goal for me has always been to be in the middle of an issue, and to be in the middle of pain, and to be in the middle of people. And so I wanted an understanding of why a city like Minneapolis was on fire, like literally on fire from every angle at one point. Rather than trying to understand that from a distance and never experiencing a rebellion or anything like that, I was like, let's just go and just be amongst the people, and walk with the people who are setting these buildings on fire, walk with the people who are rebelling against this curfew, walk with the people who are just out there peacefully protesting, walk with the people there's 30 different narratives and reasons why people are out for any reason, at this point. And instead of assuming that I have any understanding of what's going on, can I just put myself in the middle of this and develop a language for where we are? Because I'm gonna be real honest, like being in that setting and knowing why it started, seeing Minneapolis on fire, and this is not condoning anything, but seeing Minneapolis on fire felt very purifying and redemptive. And I think that even goes back to what you were talking about earlier, the video you referenced with our friend David about anger. I don't think we have theology really that allows for certain emotions, we tend to lean a very drastic direction of everything is beautiful, God is great, he's peace, he's joy, he's this, which is he's like all of those things, of course. But we also are very aware of a God who makes clear when he's angry, and hasn't always followed through, and he has at some points, but hasn't always followed through, but it's often made very clear, if you don't do this, then this will happen, you know? And so I don't think we necessarily have, or like lean on that part of God's nature. And I think the more and more we're able to reconcile that this is a part of that anger isn't just an emotion of man, but that is a God-inspired emotion. And being in settings like a protest, a riot, I was with looters, I was tear gassed, I was, you know, we were shot at with rubber bullets. There's just so much going on, but allowing all of this to tell a narrative and not just like focusing on one issue or one really great thing that's happening, you know. I think a lot of times it could be easy to just focus on the peaceful protests and tell that story like, oh, this is all that's happening, you know, but it's not. There's so many things that are happening and they're all happening for a reason, you know, and what is that reason? So I think the goal for me, like, is just always to one, understand, and at some point be able to explain a very complex story, you know? And so I think we're very young into all of what this is going to be and all of what it's going to turn into. And I know the immediate pressure from ourselves, from people around us is like, okay, so what do we do now? Like, what's the answer? Like, help, you know? But I think, and part of that is great, and I love that people are feeling that way, but I feel like that answer is developing, and things will be more clear in 6 months. If we are really committed to this, you know, things and action steps would be a lot more clear in 6 months, 9 months. I know there's a lot of talk right now about defunding the police and all these other different things, and which are expressions of or small bites of the totality of what I feel like this moment is going to imply for the next couple of years, you know? So I think my main thing is I want to be one who is okay with the complexity of the situation and look at what's happening when people are looting and say, not that I condone it, but I understand it, if that makes sense, you know? Like I can give meaning to this in the context of everything else. And not just look at it as an isolated event and look at it, let's just put this to the side, you know? Let's accept all these other things that are happening that I like and that make me feel good. But everything else, let's just put on we don't know what to do with this. Let's just put this on the fringes. And I don't think it works like that. I think what's happening right now is a very full and a very complex story, and all these different elements play a part into it. And I don't think we'll have one understanding going forward for future generations when things like this happen again. You know, we would be silly to think that they wouldn't. But yeah. I think, yeah, that would be my challenge, is like to lean into a complex moment and not rush or force a solution, you know? And so I think doing what we can right now, fighting for justice of individuals like Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, I think that's going to be very significant going forward, is to continue to take these small stories, not small, but take one story and rally behind it in the midst of group protest and in the midst of just like strategy within our communities, you know? I think they'll all play a part in this, I keep calling it a moment. I don't know how long it's going to last, but this moment that we're in. You mentioned that I led a few protests around here, and that was interesting just because I had texted a few friends and I'm like, I'm planning one right now. I don't know what the date is going to be because I want to have it right after all four officers are arrested. And for me, that was just strategic in the sense of like, I want to remind people that, yes, we were fighting for George Floyd, and still are. But as many people as I could tell in a moment, not to check out after that. And again, the importance of telling these individual stories, fighting for individual and like personal justice, but not to check out and think that was it in its totality. I think we are now at a place where we're doing that, but we're also simultaneously like trying to be preemptive, and not allow for stories like these to continue to happen. And be in a situation where we aren't allowing the system and our government to sponsor, deaths like George Floyd. And so, yeah, my goal was to do it right after they were arrested and remind everybody, okay, this is a checkpoint, let's continue. And it was even more important for me to do it in a city like Orange County, because I've been to a bunch in LA. I've been to a few in Long Beach. But what I've been noticing is that I have people coming from towns like Orange County cities into major cities for protest, and then using their homes as a retreat, so like, and leaving us with the rest of it. It's like, we're still here fighting, we're still here experiencing things that you don't have to fight with every day. And so I think as much as I can, I want to continue to bring the conversation, not just in Long Beach, not just in LA, but back to predominantly white areas like Orange County, and predominantly privileged areas like Orange County. So yeah, for me, the goal is just to continue, whether it's once a week or whatever. I think there's enough momentum to continue to gather people, but doing it strategically in cities like Orange County, Huntington Beach. There was a big one there yesterday of like 5,000 people. Newport, Costa Mesa, yeah, just all those kinds of cities, I'll wrap up here, but yeah, I think I just want to reemphasize just the three things that I really do feel are important right now. In the same way that we fought for and continue to fight for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, others, that is a continued expectation, going forward. If these things do continue to happen, can we rally around them in the same energy and momentum that we did with these three? Because I feel like these give us opportunities to hold the conscience of cops accountable, And so the more we can see, okay, we're not accepting this, we're going to fight for justice for these. Maybe that is, that's serving some sort of accountability and just a checking for, to me, and at a certain level, for any police officer or cop. And second, I think the protests need to continue. So in the same way we're making all these phone calls, we're emailing people for those specific cases, I think the protests themselves need to continue and develop in language. I think I like to look at the history of protests because at different moments things work better than others, And so we talked about the bus boycotts, and then we can talk about the sit-ins, which have a very powerful meaning for a time in history. Because if I sit at your restaurant, you'll lose money because you don't want to serve me. That's not going to work as well today because you can go most places and they'll feed you, but you can still experience a level of racism. So I think right now for this moment, there's a certain protest that is most effective and meaningful for this time. And I would like to see that develop and allow that, and challenge everybody to engage in that search for what that is, you know. And then lastly, I think it's really important to turn locally, and in the midst of this, still riding this global momentum, you know, and the fact that all 50 states have protested, there's so many nations rising up and standing behind us. We don't want to lose that, but I think there's so many things to be decided on a local level, and that's from county to county, that's from city to city. And so even a challenge that I give to a general population like Orange County is that can even feel big at one point when you start to get into the details of what kinds of decisions are being made. And so I think my challenge is right now, and to a lot of people, is that that you begin to look at your communities and look at the referendums that are available on the ballot, and then in that context, in that light, vote with your neighbor in mind. You know, I think our tendency is always to look at ourselves and our immediate like context of our family, but I think we can broaden that a little bit and look at our surroundings and our who's next to me, who lives in the city, and who isn't fully valued and who isn't fully heard, and voting with that in mind, you know. Yeah.
Wow, yo, you just said a few things. I mean, you've said a lot of things, but you know, this is crazy, and I'm gonna be brief. I'm not gonna be before y'all long. I think I've decided that no protest is good protest for for Americans who continuously criticize protests.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that you can do if you do it silently. If you there's no way, there's no really good way to do it with and you know, if you ask the American who doesn't want to be inconvenienced at a football game, or doesn't want to be inconvenienced with peaceful marches, or doesn't want to be inconvenienced
Yeah.
if we all lock hands and hold up traffic on the highway. You know, there's, like you said, there are certain things that wouldn't happen today. A sit-in wouldn't happen. Most restaurants, almost all restaurants, will take you. You
Yeah.
know, how do you inconvenience and shake things up?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you said a few really, really good things. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was dope. It's
Yeah.
not easy to put together protests. It's not easy to organize. It's not easy to wake up every day and it constantly talks about what makes you be devalued in America.
Yeah.
That's
It's
long
true.
suffering. That is not an easy task, and thank you for breaking that down, especially during a time when protesters are getting um, so much criticism and people have so much to say um, about the protest
Yeah.
happening, about
Yeah. And that's yeah. I'm gonna just say one more thing if that's okay.
yeah,
That was even more of my angst of getting to a place like Minneapolis, especially seeing that tweet from our president of like, oh, look at these thugs.
mm-hmm,
Because I didn't want anybody to be to second guess like where I was standing
yeah,
in light of that, you know?
that's
And
important.
so because not associating yourself with those people uh can almost like silently agree with what he said. It's like, yeah, look at those thugs over there.
I feel
And
you.
so for me, I got a little like righteous anger, and I'm like, okay, I'm going and I'm going to be one. And
Mm-hmm,
if anybody has any questions on what that, on why I'm choosing to stand with them, we can talk about it. But I didn't want that to be ambiguous, you know, of like, do I really believe that every protester is a thug? Am I in disagreement of what's happening? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna bring my camera, but I'm out here first as a protester, you know,
mm-hmm.
and I'm out here first as a thug, you know. And so I'm challenging you and the people that are closest to me who know me, uh, and now, and anyone who is in agreement with what the president said, now you have to identify me as that as well, and now check yourself.
Mm,
If you have any relationship to me, and you believe anything that he just said, now I'm one of them. And so now what,
yeah,
Um,
I love that.
so
Wow.
One other thing you mentioned is you went to the protests and with all kinds of you were with all kinds of people who were protesting in their own way, or they came with like a different like way of, I guess, going about it. Um, so many people, just in the broader context of protesting right now, people are trying to figure out, how do I play my part? Do I go to the marches? Oh, it's a pandemic happening right now. I don't, I have pre-existing conditions, or I live with my parents, or I have to take care of my grandmother. I can't really expose myself to that. So I want to support black businesses. I want,
yeah,
like, people are all like jumping in where they can. And I think that's so beautiful, and I'm hoping that it's sustainable. I think,
yeah,
like, I agree with you. We have enough momentum to be able to keep this thing going. I mean, gosh, the bus boycott lasted, like, what was it, like a year?
yeah, a little over a year.
Like, literally, like, black people not taking buses.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying. Like, what is that thing that'll like,
such a microwave generation.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
people in the world of Twitter, in the world of Instagram, social media, like, it's so instant. And it's incredible how instantly we get excited and how instantly we get charged up. But that fire, historically, at least within the last few years, sometimes it dies down. But I'm hoping this time, like, I do have a little bit of hope for the first time in a long time about um about seeing change.
yeah,
But it only comes when we stick this out.
Yeah.
yeah. And it has to be aggressive.
Yes.
It can't die down and become polite again.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to, yes, continue to be like in your face,
Yes.
and it has to be disruptive and like uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so at any moment, if I say anything and I feel like everyone's in agreement with me, then I'm like, okay, I'm saying the wrong thing, because like the majority of the people I'm talking to are uh, comfortably racist.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm like, okay, something's off here. This isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to be said so that like this crowd realizes that this is them I'm talking to.
Or they
Uh,
have to take it up another notch. That's how
yeah,
I feel right now. I'm watching a lot of. I'm gonna be careful. I'm watching a lot of, particularly, I'm watching a lot of evangelicals. I'm watching a lot of white Christian artists, where 4 years ago they would not say Black Lives Matter, and now everybody's saying it. And I'm just like, y'all 4 years
yeah,
late to the party. I mean, it's not a
yeah,
party. But y'all late. Y'all mad late. That's not a like.
yeah.
But anyway, I taking it up another notch, and I feel like we're doing that, and I'm hoping that we continue to do that more. That's my thought on it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing
yeah,
with us. This was beautiful. It was great. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and where can everybody find you online? Because people are asking. We sent some links on uh on the YouTube, and letting everybody know where they can find stuff for the couch. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think our main form of communication is our Instagram, the Couch Official. We'll be expanding that into our YouTube as well, which is under the same name. And then we have a website that will host and detail majority of our like podcast and a few other resources. But yeah, our main form of like in real time information and communication is going to be IG.
And what's your IG handle?
Oh yes. I I never say that one unless people ask. I'm always like, should I just go private and change my photo to something nobody can?
And you got me on your close friends on Instagram, so I'll be excited.
Hey, I know. For
I'm
when I want to say something real spicy, just to the close friends. Yeah, that one's. I think it's John Paul Howard. It's my full name, John Paul Howard.
Y'all make sure y'all follow him. He's incredible. He's doing amazing things, and we're so grateful for you to be here.
Yep.
Guys, this concludes our show.
That's it.
Daisy and Gabby are going to close this out with a joke.
I got no
You got some
jokes.
dad joke?
I ain't got no
Rhea,
dad
you got a
jokes.
joke? You got a
We've
joke?
been seeing your kids all throughout this live. You got to have a dad joke in your pocket.
You got lots
You
of
need me to
dad
text you one real quick?
You should.
Okay. About to text
Oh, I got a dad joke.
you. Do? Okay. You don't want my dad joke?
jokes. Think about it.
Okay,
first.
this one
Think
might be.
about it. No,
This
think about
I'm
it.
gonna think about it. Okay. I'm
No,
gonna
I
think.
think you should do it. If you have to think about it, that means you
Okay,
definitely.
if it offends, it's not gonna offend. So a group of people took the tires off of a cop car, and the cops were searching tirelessly.
You did have some
Good job.
That was right up there. Just pop it off.
Tirelessly.
Yeah, they were searching tirelessly. Get it?
Yes.
Good one.
That's
You're
it.
not laughing, and that's problematic, but it's okay. Well, thank you guys. We are grateful that you're here. We have a new time, as you can tell. So next week we'll be here same time, 8 Eastern, 7 Central time. We'll be back here. We have 2 other speakers that are going to be coming. We're going to be sharing some songs. It's going to be great, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
And we're gonna have a theme song.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we have a theme song, so it's going to be great. But maybe we should do 2 and have everybody vote.
Oh,
Ooh. I like it.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I think we should have them vote.
that'd be cool.
Battle of the Bands.
E. All right. Thank you guys. We out.
Peace.